Greater Media Broadcast News.
Welcome to another edition of Greater Media Broadcast News. I'm Susie Shea with this week's top headlines from Central New Jersey. Our main story involves the Jersey Shore, which is back despite a sluggish start to the summer. A rainy June kept people from the sandy, battered beaches, but with a bit of creativity and marketing, tourism is picking up once again. Business owners say they are tweaking their practices and even lowering their prices to bring tourists back. And those looking to pay a visit will have a place to stay. While the store may have cut rental units back to 75% capacity, real estate agents say that is welcome news considering the devastation. For more information on how the Jersey Shore is doing, please see this week's edition of Greater Media Newspapers. Rutgers Gardens will hit a milestone this Saturday when it holds its 50th annual open house. Here's Stella Morrison with more.
Rutgers Gardens in North Brunswick is holding its 50th annual open house on July 27th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The milestone event features wine tasting, vendors, and vegetable and flower plant sales. Visitors will also have the opportunity to tour the many flowers, trees, and gardens on the property, which spans 180 acres and touches 3 towns. For information on ticket prices, visit rutgersgardens.rutgers.edu. For Greater Media Newspapers, I'm Stella Morrison.
And now we turn to Keith Humiller with the story about an educational program that won a New Jersey Heroes Award.
Throughout the last 18 years, the Rumson Horizons program has given thousands of children from throughout the Red Bank area the opportunity to learn, grow, and interact at the Rumson Country Day School. Last week, First Lady Mary Pat Christie visited the program to present co-founder Lori McDonald with a check for $7,500 and honor her as a New Jersey hero. The First Lady also met with a number of the program's students. A group of third graders launched a hot air balloon outside on the athletic field and explained to the First Lady why the balloon was lighter than the air around it. Christie also met with an 8th grade student who had recently been named the valedictorian of her class and was accepted to a private all-girls high school in Middletown for this fall. Christie said the program epitomizes the spirit of volunteerism and community involvement that is still very prevalent throughout the state. It's important, she said, every now and again to take a step back and honor those who give so selflessly to help somebody else.
In other important headlines, the annual Monmouth County Fair is here, with rides, food, and music through July 28th. This year features BMX bike shows, pie eating contests, and even pig racing. For more information on the Monmouth County Fair, please see our newspapers. South Brunswick is considering a plan that would install solar panels in its landfill. The project may be a moneymaker for the township with no cost to install and about $2 million in revenue over 20 years. Discussions about the project will pick up again next month. You can read more about the project in the North-South Brunswick Sentinel. A former employee of Muscle Maker Grill in Edison is suing her previous boss for his alleged racist hiring practices. The owner allegedly refused to accept job applications from African Americans. Muscle Maker Grill is investigating the allegations. For more details, see this week's Edison Metuchen Sentinel. And now we turn to Mark Rosman with more headlines from this week's papers.
Thank you, Susie. I'd like to invite readers to check out this week's edition of the News Transcript for a story that has to deal with the Marlborough Planning Board and an application its members considered a week ago. Kay Hovnanian came with a plan in which they wanted to take an approved development for age-restricted living, that would be people over 55, and convert that to a development for people of all ages. What they're hoping to do is go along with a state law that was passed several years ago that gives developers the option to come back to a community after a development has been approved for seniors and to convert it to all ages. The thought behind that law was to try to kickstart the housing industry in the middle of the Great Recession and also to come up with some affordable housing for the state of New Jersey. Some members of the Marlborough Planning Board had an issue with that conversion application, and in the end, they denied that application. Now, the developer may be able to take the township to court, and so we may not have heard the end of this particular development application in Marlborough. Marlborough isn't the only town in New Jersey that has dealt with this situation, as many municipalities which want to contain their own zoning and determine what goes on in their own communities have had some issues with this state law. So this is an issue that may come up in the future again in other municipalities. Marlborough specifically this week, but other towns in New Jersey in the future.
Thank you, Mark. Now let's turn to Tom Castles, returning from the Jersey Shore Music Festival.
As a Jersey native and an indiscriminate lover of music, I always knew that the Garden State was overflowing with tons of musical talent. I've been following around a handful of local acts for several years, but I never really realized how much talent could be found across the state until I visited the Jersey Shore Music Festival on July 20th.
The festival was held outside of First Energy Park in Lakewood, home of the minor league Blue Claws, and brought together about 5,000 music-loving New Jerseyans who were treated to about 60 acts on 6 stages over the course of a hot and sunny afternoon and a relatively pleasant evening. The majority of those acts were homegrown, like Brick and Mortar, a drum and bass duo from Toms River, and ASL, a 7-piece progressive rock juggernaut from Hillsborough. But a few bands, like the Main Squeeze and national act The Hush Sound, drove out from the Midwest to perform. Quite a few lesser-known but similarly talented Jersey performers took up residency at the event's smaller stages, and were very happy for a chance to have their music heard by a very supportive crowd. The Jersey Shore Music Festival wasn't just about the music, though. The event also provided a venue for many of the area's best restaurants, clothiers, jewelers, and artists to purvey their products, and gave performers with the Unholy Sideshow a chance to satiate the audience's taste for the strange. All in all, the festival brought together the best performers and artists New Jersey has to offer in a quagmire of genre-spanning and sometimes genre-bending musical festivities. Keep an eye out for next year's festival. Co-founder Corey Pedalino tells me big things are in the mix. And now we turn to Ariana Agneri, who will tell us a bit about what's going on in Red Bank.
Red Bank's 19th century Victorian-style home that was once the residence of Thomas T. Fortune, a journalist, writer, and important civil rights activist, is currently the subject of an active preservation project. Fortune, who lived in the house from 1901 to 1915, was once a former slave. However, after being emancipated, he helped found the New York Age, a widely read African-American newspaper of the period. Also, while at the house, he composed a great deal of civil rights literature and entertained a number of important leaders in the movement, including Booker T. Washington. Thus, for many, protecting Fortune's influential legacy has become synonymous with saving his now endangered house. The Preservation Committee's outreach to raise awareness and funds has been both broad and extensive. Eventually, the committee hopes to set the house up as an instructive cultural center with a museum component, serving the entire community for educational purposes and helping to promote Red Bank's rich and vibrant history. For more information, see gmnews.com.
And here's this week's sports segment with Tim Morris.
Monmouth Park will be the center of attention this weekend as it presents the $1 million William Hill Haskell Invitational on July 28th. The Grade 1 Stakes has become one of the biggest races for 3-year-olds in the country and has again attracted a marquee field that includes Preakness winner Oxbow and Kentucky Derby runner-up Golden Soul. But the horse everyone will be watching is Power Broker, trained by Bob Baffert, who was seeking an unprecedented 4th consecutive Haskell and 7th overall. He won last year's Haskell with Painter. Verrazano, which won the Pegasus Pace at Monmouth Park last month, brings a local interest to the race. He is co-owned by Kevin Sakatoro Ochoa of Red Bank and Brian Sullivan of Rumson.
What's your status? Greater Media Newspapers, in conjunction with Hand Drawn Marketing, is offering 2 exciting free seminars on the use and benefits of Facebook and Twitter. These free seminars will be held on Tuesday, August 6th and 13th in our Manalapan office. Stay ahead of the competition and join us. For additional information and to reserve your spot, please call 732-833-5100. Hand Drawn Marketing is a full-service marketing agency. Hand Drawn Marketing delivers creative strategies to build brands, raise awareness, and deliver the maximum results. Get something hand-drawn for you today.
Comfort food can mean anything, from a rich slice of cheesecake to a butter-laden casserole stuffed with meats and veggies. But for Carla Hall, co-host of The Chew and a former competitor on Top Chef, comfort food has a much broader definition. The Edison Metuchen Sentinel spoke with Hall last week at the G Grab and Go in Edison. There, she signed copies of her book, Cooking with Love, Comfort Food That Hugs You, and talked about the art of cooking with fans. Now, one of the biggest things that Hall touted is probably something you've heard your grandmother say a million times. The main ingredient in cooking is love. She said, if you're in a bad mood, the only thing you should make is a reservation. Now, if you're in for a little bit more about Hall's philosophy and what she has to offer to bring to your table, check out this week's edition of the Edison Metuchen Sentinel.
For more in-depth coverage and additional stories, pick up your local Greater Media newspaper today. This is Susie Shea. Thanks for tuning in.